Welcome to Stronger Than the Story Real Women, Real Overcoming. I'm Janae Robinson. These conversations are with women who have faced life altering experiences and discovered a strength they didn't know they had. Because your story may shape you, but it does not decide what rises next. I'm here with Nancy Winmill. Nancy is the founder and executive director of Simply Hope Family Outreach in Burley, Idaho, and serves as president of the Idaho State Teen Assessment Center Coalition. Simply Hope began after Nancy walked through a family crisis of her own and posed a simple question on Facebook. Are there any other families struggling with the effects of addiction in the home? That one post sparked a community response, and 11 years later, Simply Hope has grown into what it is today, a trauma-informed, prevention-focused organization supporting youth and families through early intervention, education, and coordinated care. Nancy also serves on the Idaho Juvenile Justice Commission and participates on an Idaho Behavioral Health Council, IBHC subcommittee, supporting assessment center sustainability and statewide alignment. Grounded in the belief that families deserve help before crisis becomes catastrophe, Nancy leads with both stewardship and heart because through her faith, she believes all things are possible. Welcome, Nancy.
Thanks, Janae. Thanks for inviting me. It's an honor
So
to be
happy.
with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Nancy, can you take us back to the beginning? Like, what happened in your life when you felt the need to create Simply Hope?
Well, I had a son who broke his back in a soccer game at a high school event, and we did not know that over time he had become addicted to prescription pain pills. Addiction wasn't something we were really familiar with in our home. We did have a brother that had addiction issues, but we weren't familiar with what the effects were of opioid use. So over time, as he graduated and became an adult, this addiction had stayed with him and we were unaware of it. He came back to us and asked for help. And my husband and I worked together to try to wean him off of these pills and realized we were in over our head. So we sent him to a treatment facility. You know, it's a small town, so we didn't ask for any help in our community. We didn't really know of what there was for resources and sent him to a place in San Clemente, California, which kept him for 21 days. And my brother, who is a therapist, came and called me and said, be careful when he gets home, he could easily overdose. And I was like, nah, he'll be great. I've talked to him on the phone. He sounds wonderful. And he came home and somehow got away from all of us. It was the fair here in town and got back to his doctor who re-prescribed all of those medications to him again and he overdosed. Luckily his girlfriend was with him when it happened and she called us and said something's wrong. He's not breathing and we rushed home and that really started our journey. They didn't know if they could revive him. Naloxone, this was, 12 years ago, and naloxone wasn't a big thing back then, and people didn't carry it like law enforcement and EMTs and things. And so when they got him to the hospital, they didn't know if he was revivable completely. And that's when I went, this is so far beyond like anything Troy and I have ever experienced. And I began working at Burley High School with Sherry, and she came in and talked to me about she knew our sons partied together and she was going through similar things. And we just started looking for support. There is an Al Anon group in our community, but at the time, people weren't attending. It was me and her husband, Dave, and the facilitator, and it was very scripted. It didn't speak to me. And so then I put that post on Facebook and asked, is there anybody else that is struggling with the effects of addiction? And what happened is when those people started blowing up my messenger, the group that developed was about 8 or 9 people that were in recovery, and then the rest of us that were having family members that weren't. And what I later found out was that the people in recovery were really curious. They were very protective of groups and things that come in because they don't want it to hurt other people trying to find recovery. And so they were kind of spying on me to see what I was up to. And but what happened was miraculous because they joined that group, and we had people in that group that were in recovery speaking to family members who were so angry and hurt by their loved ones' choices, and the healing that happened. The miracle was that addicts were seeing their family members in a different light, and the family members were seeing the person with substance use disorder different in their life. And that was really the birth of Simply Hope and how it all came to be. People said it would never work, but 11 years later, it's still working.
Yeah, it
So,
has. It has worked. And I remember because you're right across the street from my building, and I remember when the Teen Hope vans came in. Was that a
mhm.
donation that had come in?
Yeah, that was a donation that happened. Goody Motor gave us our
Yeah.
first fan, so that was a launch, another
Yeah.
one of many launches. It's just grown so fast. Like, so when that happened, I quit my job and went back to school to learn to be an addiction counselor a few years later, which was really hard to do because I loved my job. And but I loved school. I drank in everything. And it's funny to go to school for addiction counseling because most people who go into that field are in recovery. And they called me the normie because I was not in recovery. And they would give me a lot of crap because often class was stopping to explain one of the drugs to me and how it's used because I just didn't understand it. But they afterwards, and I did a short internship to become that addiction counselor, and then I became a life coach because I realized that I didn't work as well with the people in recovery or seeking recovery as I did with the families. I had more empathy on that side. I had a lot of countertransference with people seeking forced recovery, is what I called it, because I worked with a lot of people on probation or parole in the clinic that I was working in, which was the biggest teacher. And I just love that population. I have yet to meet a person with substance use disorder that isn't one of the most kindest, loving, creative, gentlest souls. And I think what was really hard in that field is I felt discouraged. Um, I I saw my own children and their struggles with substance use and felt like it was never going to change. And I just don't want to feel like that. And I want to stay hopeful. I mean, I was really inspired to name it Simply Hope through God, and that's because I felt like He wanted people to have hope, the simple act of hope. And so when I left that internship in that position and we rented just a little office space, we just developed more groups. And I say we because Sherry was still working at the high school, but she was supporting in that. So were several other people that were coaching me along. And then we got a little donation from Dot Foods for $2,000 and bought tables and chairs. And then we just kept growing and kept developing more support systems for people in grief, from suicide, from divorce, a men's recovery group. I mean, just all sorts of things. And then it turned into a recovery group for men and women. And so it just kept growing to where we moved to a little bigger space that had heat and air because the original building did not have heat or air conditioning.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it was a hole, but we could afford it.
Yeah.
And then we moved to this other little one-room shack is what we called it. And it really grew. Then things really started to take off. And when we had two 11-year-olds in our area die by suicide and within months of each other, we went, okay, we got to help these kids. And we started a little support group for kids every other week on Thursday. And then we had some ladies who wanted to do some service. And so they asked us if they could come and help and clean our toilets. And I said, we only have one, but come. We met, we went and toured a teen center in Idaho Falls. We went, we could do this. Then the Lynch Foundation gave us a larger donation, and that helped us build or not build, but get the building we're in now. And we launched the teen center, which was really scary because I was like going, oh my word, we're going to start this. And we just have this one buy-in from this one place. And then we had a private donor donate to us. And I called Sherry and said, are you ready to quit your job at the high school? And she said, yes, I am, which is hard for her because she'd been there for like 18 years.
Wow.
And so she left and came on as a program manager and a grant writer. And then as we were doing the teen center and things were happening and we were growing that, the um, probation officer or the head of probation, Dixie, over in Minidoka County called us and said, there's this grant. You're already doing the work. You should write it. And because I had worked at a clinic, I knew when I read the grant that we could build a safe teen assessment center, that it would work. And we wrote that grant. We were one of 10 recipients, and we hired our first staff, and the community responded. We opened in October of 2022, and we screened almost 300 kids in that short little time till the new year rolled around, and it just exploded. And Sandra Miller from Cassia County came to me and said, we're outsourcing our mental health component for our kids in our district. I think Simply Hope could do this work. And it just kept growing. And Sherry had a funny thing one day. She said to me, there's a year in typical years, and then there's Simply Hope years. They're more like dog years. It's like 7 years all in one year. And that is the growth. It's just grown and grown, and to where we could come back to our roots. And that is, we got a federal grant, which opened up our adult community of recovery program, which brought us full circle. So now Simply Hope, I call it like the roof, the mothership. And then there's Teen Hope, which is like a YMCA program, and after school life skills. We feed them dinner. It's a safe space. It's kind of like the land of misfit toys, kids that don't feel like they belong. But we have kids that belong to groups or cheerleaders and basketball players and stuff, but they have this sense home is hard. And so they come here and find trusted adults and a safe space, and kids that they might not hang around with at school, but they become really good friends here at the center. And then we have the Safe Teen Assessment Center, where families and kids as little as 5 years old can have a screener. We can see what's happening, tie them with a case manager. We offer free counseling sessions, up to 6, to help them navigate whatever that issue is. And we um, can do this without a 6-week waiting period, which is what was in our community. Is people couldn't get into counseling for 6 to 8 weeks. They couldn't find one. And we can have them with a counselor immediately, because I have 2 on staff if needed, or within a week if the issue isn't a crisis. And then and kids are so resilient, like 6 sessions often puts them back in a really great space that they can navigate and have some tools. And then the adult programs with our support groups and things there that help the adults. And then we can screen adults now also. And then there's a counselor that will see them 3 times to help them connect with another counselor and get some balance back in. So it just really took off. And last year we received a $2 million grant through the Millennial Fund that helped us start our building. So we're building a 15,000 square foot facility that will be a community center, is the hope, that we can grow it in the community, that the community can utilize it, rent it, also receive its services for free, that will always be able to offer that to other families. That's really important to me, because when my son came back, my insurance had all been used. And so I couldn't afford to just pay out of pocket. I still had kids at home, and we had no means to help in his care anymore, or for us. And so that's one reason why I feel like there's this gap with the middle class where we need support and services, and doing that through grants and donations has been important to me so that nobody doesn't receive the help that they need. So,
And I think that that is really something that I'd like to emphasize right now, that everything there is free.
mhm.
Yeah.
Everything, every class, the kids' classes,
Mhm.
we do sources of strength, vaping classes, anger management, everything we do is free.
Yeah,
So,
which I think is a huge asset to our community. So I wanted to ask you, because I love that analogy of the dog years.
mhm.
And so did fear ever stop or slow you down in those early days? And if so, how did you get past that?
Yeah, I remember one day eating pizza in Twin Falls with Troy, and I was in school, and all of a sudden, Sherry started going to a different group. She said, I can't come to Simply Hope for a while because I'm going to go explore this other. And I felt so abandoned. This was before she came on, and I just felt like the support group was dwindling, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like one of the groups, only one person showed up, and then I had to really ask myself, why am I doing this? Like what for? And that was a really good test, I feel like, from God. Like he knew this journey was going to be hard. I lost friends. I have people who avoid me because they don't want to be associated with someone who might represent that they have problems. I don't know their reasoning. Addiction has a lot of stigma. And so it's been an interesting journey to lose some people that I thought were my good friends and be excluded from activities and groups, and I had to really figure this out, and I really wanted to help other people, and I really felt like it was God pushing me forward in this work. And when I did that analysis that it was helping me and it was helping others and that I really wanted to do this, it propelled me forward. And then things started to grow again, but I definitely was tested and tried of how serious are you about this, because you're going to have some days like now. Even I have a son in active addiction and in a recovery center right now, and I think to myself, oh my word, how do I help other people when I can't even fix myself? And then I've had to take steps back and go, it's not about fixing anything. It's just trying to figure out how we can support and love one another, and realizing that nobody is perfect. We all have stuff, and just being there for support.
Yeah,
So,
I had this realization that recently, that just about our capacity, our capacity. We talk about, oh, we need to grow our capacity so that we can take on more. And I always thought that that meant going through hard things, going through these hard things, and then, we create this capacity. But then I was shown really through prayer that it is about the capacity to hold joy. We want to hold more joy. So when we're presented with an opportunity to grow our capacity, it's going to show up as a hard thing. And it can show
mhm,
up as a devastating thing. It can show up in a multitude of ways. Um, but when I started to focus on the eternal and
mhm.
the joy, because that's what God is, He's love, He's joy, that just became so much bigger. And that gives me hope. That actually gives me hope. And so
Yeah.
can you speak a little bit about capacity? Because I'm sure that you see that in others as well, that maybe they're struggling to find ways to grow their capacity to to get through those hard things.
Oh yeah. I think that change, like you can't change anybody else. And that's really hard for a lot of people that come to me for help, because they're really wanting their loved one to change, and they just are convinced that if they can change them, everything will get better. And with my own children, with my own experience and all of and my own personal journey with this, I had to realize I can't change anybody else but myself. And the cool part about that is, though, when you change, everyone around you changes. Like it's a ripple effect, just like addiction or hard things can, and other people's choices can have a ripple effect on you. So can the positive changes. And I think that just, I always want to grab people and go, oh my word, you're thinking of this backwards. Like, and once they can buy into that, that if they can change and make that first step, but change is really scary. And and we get really comfortable. I call it like you hide behind this wall of the norm in your life, even if the norm is so not normal compared to other families or what society thinks is normal. We hide behind this. We're used to it. I had one lady say, I just hide his keys because then I can control that he's not going to go drive and hurt anybody else. And I just feel safe in that. To call the police on him when he takes off and drives, even though he gets really angry and abusive to me because I've hidden the keys, that's scary to me. And it's that mentality of it takes courage to make those big steps, to make the change, to protect yourself instead of somebody else. Because she had to work on figuring out, how do you help somebody make those changes if you're protecting and guarding them from ever facing consequences. And that's what we do to ourselves also. I hope I'm making sense.
You
So,
are
because
totally. Yes.
you want to like protect the norm in your life, what know you've always normally done. And sometimes that's taking a step back and going, that is not working. It's not healthy. It's hard to face because we take it as a personal self-esteem injury when it's not that, it's growth. It's realizing, I always say 90% of all of it is recognizing it. 90% is just that recognizing it. And the 10% is the work. Because once you recognize it, you're going, okay, I know how to make this change. But that 10% feels so scary. Like, and the 90% feels overwhelming. So once you can get past that, the 10%, it comes, and trying to get people to see that the work's not the hard part. It's the recognizing what you need to do to make those changes.
Yeah, that
That
is
was
so
really
true.
long.
That was perfect. That was so perfect. So, so you broke ground on a 15,000 square foot facility, is that right?
Yes, we
Yeah.
did.
And so, can you share really what that means like for your future programs and services and when will it be done? When can we expect that to be open? Because we you just started,
December.
right? When? Summer?
December.
Oh, December.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
So we have a tight timeline with that 2 million. Of
Okay.
course, we're raising another 2.5 million. So it's almost a $5 million project. So, um, and we're getting there. We're about down to the last little 1.2 million that we need to raise. It's going to be awesome. So it's all designed with sustainability in mind and community in mind. The reason, if you came to our building today and saw how we have just literally cut holes in walls and made doorways, this will be a much safer space for parents, families, and kids to have this new building. Not that this space isn't safe, we've made it that way, but the teen center will be able to accommodate way more teens. Right now, if we get about 27, we're just stuffed to the gills. It's really overwhelming. So we're hoping to double that at least, and we'll be able to feed more meals and take care of kids that way. The community program that is we have a community group room that we'll be able to also rent out. It'll also be used for the adult programs, but we're hoping people will take advantage of that space and can hold retreats or things there at that space, and it will feel really comfortable. The lobby is to feel like home and very welcoming and inviting. The upstairs will be where all the offices and the clinical side of Simply Hope will be, where it's very private. There'll be a shower up there for families that need to utilize that shower. There's also going to be a closet full of gently used clothing that people can just go shop in anytime that they want. We've really tried to build it for growth. There's offices that we can rent out and um, let other people utilize, hopefully with like-minded services. So we become a more of a one-stop shop on the weekends, and the recreation area and the outside courtyard are all rentable. Same with the community rooms, so that will help with that sustainability. We're hoping to have peaceful spaces to sit outside and, gardens for the kids to learn how to grow vegetables and take them home to mom and dad. Right now, we serve about roughly 5,000 meals a year, and then we send home close to 1,000. And that we're getting hit a little harder with food disparity and giving out more food boxes than we ever have. So we're hoping that will help in that our accessibility to both counties will be better in that location, our parking, there's a lot of things. So we're excited.
Awesome. And I know that you have a gala every year in December. And if there is someone that's listening today that wants to donate, that really feels that tug on their heart, how can they get a hold of you to do that? Or how can they even volunteer? Or how can they get involved?
Well, simply-hope.com has places on there that you can donate. Right now, we're doing a side-by-side raffle where you can win a side-by-side. Last year, we gave a Bronco away to his darling little one-car family. They were so, see there again, I feel like that's how God works. Like I was like, you were the perfect winner and stuff. So the side-by-side is another fundraiser. We have a monthly subscriber donation for $30 a month. We have volunteer paperwork that you can print out and fill out and come in. If you work with the teens, we do have to do a background check. It's really simple. But we're always needing like flyers sent out and things done around the center and activities. We've got a 5K coming up in August. We need help planning. We're going to be selling bricks to go with the building. We need committee members to help with that. So there's lots of ways to serve and help grow the programs and the service for the youth and the families in our community.
Well, Nancy, thank you so much for today and just sharing your life's work. I think it's incredible for our community and honestly for generations that come, because when we can help those now, then those seeds go into their future. And
Yeah,
so, yeah. So
I
thank
agree with
you.
you. Thank
Awesome.
you. And thanks for all that you do. I think what you do is wonderful. Even though we're across the street and we can never see each other
I
because we're
know.
both
We're just
running.
we're both running all the time, but
Yeah.
I think of you all the time, and I definitely wish you and your organization well.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much.